Hi, and welcome to the Ready for Love podcast with Auret, the dating and relationship advice show dedicated to helping you create a single life you love, date with confidence and ease, and ultimately attract the love of your life. Thank you for listening.
Hi there, this is Auret, dating and relationship coach and your host. So welcome to another episode of the Ready for Love podcast. I'm so thrilled that you're tuning in today. Thank you so much for being here. So today's episode is really about a few topics that are very close to my heart and something that really resonates with me at this point in my life. So my special guest is Dr. Chloe Peacock, and I do have permission to call Dr. Peacock just Chloe on the show today, so I'll go ahead and do that. So Chloe mainly works with brands and digital marketing agencies, helping them understand their consumers' attitudes and beliefs. And she's got a doctorate in communication theory on brand consumer participation and is a qualitative research expert who specializes in cultural and visual analysis. And Chloe is also the founder of a fabulous community called the League of Fabulous Women, a lifestyle network for child-free women. So we're going to talk about that and also very much about the power of friendship and connection and support on our life journey. On a more personal note, Chloe herself, at around age 40, finds herself part of a growing demographic of women who do not have their own children, and that was one of the main motivations for her setting up the League of Fabulous Women in the first place. You can check out the website at tlf.co.uk, and the links will be in the show notes, of course, as always, but you can check out tlfw.co.uk. So Chloe, thank you so much for taking the time today and being here with me, and I'm really looking forward to spending this time talking to you about something that's so close to both our hearts.
Thank you, Anna, and thank you for that lovely introduction. I'm really, really pleased to be here and have this time talking with you.
Wonderful. So I also include myself in this demographic of women that I mentioned earlier, and similar age, and also without my own children. And I remember it was how I came across you in the League of Fabulous Women. One evening I was Googling exactly this thing, shall I say, my age, around 40, women being childless, and finding many, many similar stories online about, women being without children either by choice or because of choice or because of circumstance. Mm-hmm. And that's how I came across your website.
Oh, well, that really pleases me, because it means that we're something that the League of Fabulous Women is doing, and we're doing right. And of course, I'm also really happy because it means, that's how we have connected and, been able to chat and sort of come together and share some ideas. So it's, it's good. I'm pleased.
Wonderful. Well, I hope many, many more people find you that way, because I think you're doing such an amazing thing. So just so my listeners know, our listeners, is you and I have never actually met in real life.
No.
Yet, but I'm sure we'll manage it soon.
Yes. Yeah, no, that'd be lovely. But yeah, this isn't sort of our first encounter though, is it? So we connected through the website and sort of social media, and we've talked on the phone.
Yeah. And it made me think this morning how amazing it is that even though we've not physically met, we've had, quite a lot of contact online and so on, as you say. And it's just that power of the internet these days, I guess. And the reason that I'm mentioning all of this is because I think it's relevant in the context of our discussion today, is that we can find others so much more easily or easier that we resonate with, and that may be experiencing the same sort of challenges or trials and triumphs as us. And there is something for us to kind of connect to or reach out to.
Yes, yeah, that's true. I mean, I think there's lots of criticisms of the internet and kind of contemporary behaviours and online behaviours that sort of undermine the quality of those connections. But I think everything in its place, and I would definitely agree with you that the internet, and social media has done a lot for putting people in touch with each other, and those online communities and diminishing a sense of isolation for a lot of people. So yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I've read a lot about going through certain phases in your life and making these kind of the really big decisions around having a family or not, and so on, and it was just in some way, even though everybody's story is different and the journey is different, there are a lot of kind of universal themes almost, and it's just that real sense of I'm not the only one going through this. It's not just me, and I guess there is a sense of comfort in that. So that's really helpful, and especially with your community that you've set up. Can you just tell us a bit more about what was your inspiration and motivation to start it all?
Yeah, sure. So, sort of aside from my academic interest, if you like, I initially set the community up for purely selfish reasons, if you like, or it was motivated by a need in my life. So I'm going back about 3 years now. So I'm 40.
Yeah.
So I was in my late 30s, and the situation that I was in, a lot of my close friends had young children. A couple of my really close friends were having babies at the same time, and I had come out of a very long-term relationship at that point, and I was living alone. And my social life dramatically changed. It was as simple as that. And although I was still connecting and am still very much friends with those people in my life and close to them, and love their kids, I there was this gap for me, and I felt that I needed to somehow reach out to people and make some new friends and develop some new interests. And there was also that kind of, I can't be the only one. This is it me? Or, and then I was inspired by an article that I read in the Sunday Times. So it was one of those moments, sort of serendipity. I read this article about the PANKS demographic, so professional auntie no kid, and how it was a growing marketing demographic, and had been sort of recognised in the States, and really driven by Melanie Notkin and Savvy Auntie, which is a website in America. And I was like, yes, that's what I am. I'm a PANK. And I set up this meetup group where I live. And, it was one of those things sort of, it grew pretty quickly. But the first meetup, I think there were 4 or 5 of us. The next one, there was 10. But it was wonderful because I used to log on, and every week I'd be, oh my goodness, there's new members. And it got to a point where I was having conversations with other people, or friends were telling their friends, and members in the group were telling their friends, and to meet people and say, well, I live in Manchester, and I'd really love to join, but and I'm in London. So in the end, what happened was about 10 months ago, I decided to set up the website. So we have this sort of central hub online where people can connect online, but we've also started other meetup groups. So we're in Bristol, London, Manchester, and Brighton.
That is
sort of world domination, hopefully.
That is incredible. Wow. And I know the website looks fabulous, which is very suited to its fabulous community. I love it because there's so much on there, and the fact that it's just really a lifestyle. It's not all to do with one particular topic around being, the kind of criteria for the demographic, which is women who are child free. I think even if you're not in that particular demographic, there's still so much fabulous stuff on there. So just congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, the content on the site is, we have this really fantastic blog that's written by different women who are members of the group. And some of it is about being child-free and issues that come up for us. But also, as you said, there's a lot of lifestyle material on there. And I think part of what we're trying to do is mediate and show the rest of the world that the cultural ideas around women without children have really shifted from the idea of the kind of old maid or, bitter spinster or evil stepmom. These kind of myths that have circulated really just aren't relevant anymore. And it's kind of time as a society that we're kind of comfortable with the idea that I think it's 1 in 4. It's definitely 1 in 5, soon to be 1 in 4 women of childbearing age in this country do not have children. So that's it's not a small minority. There's quite a lot of us.
No, not at all. And it's especially the women that I know. They just have incredible lives and they're doing incredible things with their lives, and it's really. Whatever the reason is, it's just an incredible community to be part of. So that's really wonderful. So what other kind of observations have you had in the time that this has been running? What are you learning out of the whole process?
Oh, wow. That's a really, really good question. I think one of the things that has really struck me is just how interesting and incredible the women that I've encountered, that I've met. And I should say, as part of the League of Fabulous Women, we have these face-to-face meetups. I don't know if I've made that clear, but it's not all online. So we actually go and do stuff together and hang out. And I've really been inspired by the women that I've met and have come to know and that have become friends. And I've also been exposed to very different types of people that perhaps in the past, in the course of my daily life, I wouldn't necessarily have encountered. And it's opened up for me a whole range of new interests, new connections and different types of friendships, which is really, interesting, I think.
Yeah.
And I think what I've really learned is to kind of be open. You never know what's around the corner or who is around the corner.
Gosh, that's just lovely. Like you say, you just don't know who you're going to meet.
Exactly.
So you just mentioned, another word, and we're going to talk about this, is something that's really close to my heart because, people in my life, I just can't imagine being without them, and it's the friendships and making these new connections and bringing, the kind of older connections with you, people that've been with you for a very long time. So let's talk a little bit about that, because I know that's something really, really important to you, just in terms of friendship. And are we talking female friendships specifically, or how would you describe that and the importance of that for you?
Well, I wouldn't say it's just female friendships, but obviously in terms of, developing this group and the sort of friendships that I've developed in the most sort of recent phase, or most recent past, if you like. I think I'm in a position where I've been able to observe the development of not just my own female friendships, but women making friends with other women through the groups. And I think it's interesting. You mentioned that word, sort of different phases and different periods of your life, and you were talking just now about how we kind of take friends with us through certain parts of our life and through different experiences. And it just reminded me, actually, another reason that I set this up was that we go through different periods in our life where we make friends, so male and female friends, at school, at university, when we start a new job. And obviously a really kind of key phase for a lot of women is when they have children, when they have babies, and they go to social groups like Little Dippers and postnatal groups and that kind of thing. And so for women who don't have children, there isn't that sort of organisation. And as we get older, I think as human beings, it's not very hard, but it gets harder to develop friendships. And I've said this before to other people, it's quite a weird thing, isn't it? You don't sort of, as an adult, you don't do that thing that we were all so used to when we were little. You go up to somebody in your class when you're 6 and say, do you want to be my friend? Yeah. We don't do that, and that would be a bit weird. And I think as adults, we need different types of friendships in our life. So not all our connections and our friendships are of the same quality. And, we have friends that we go out and have fun with, who are there for pleasure. And we have sort of connections that are useful to us. So, it's something that Aristotle actually identified, so I can't claim this my own, but 3 types of friendships. So there's utility, pleasure, and then what he called friendship for the good. And those are the types of friendships that take a bit of time to develop, and where your interest as a human is much more in the giving rather than the getting. And those are the sorts of friendships that are kind of enduring. But as humans, we need all 3. We don't necessarily need loads and loads of them, but we need, a few.
Yeah. So where are you up to, would you say, in terms of your journey with all of this, in terms of friendship and connection and community? What are you learning about yourself now at this point in your life?
Again, that's a really interesting question, and I've been thinking about this in recent weeks, and giving, I suppose, having a bit of a life audit, if you like. And I have found that in the course of my adult life, I think one of the most valuable resources, if you like, and it seems a terrible way to describe people as resources, but my friendships are so valuable to me, and particularly, in times of crisis, when life hasn't been so good, my friends have provided comfort and enabled me to learn quite a lot about myself as a means to sort of exploring things like emotional intimacy, developing personal boundaries, and really sort of providing that foundation, which I think in terms of, the wonderful work that you do, it's really interesting, because there's definitely this kind of connection as having that foundation of friendship. It sounds like common sense, but we need friends to kind of be happy and get our needs met. Yeah. But also to be ready for love, for the romantic and sexual relationships that we desire. We need to kind of interact and learn about ourselves through other people.
Yeah. That makes me think of lots of different things right now. Yes. Yeah, I guess, we don't, when we're little and when we're at home and growing up, there's no school for us to go to learn in terms of relationships, romantic relationships, shall I say, in future and so on. And even from when we're little, our friend type relationships even from then. And then as we get older, actually really plays a much bigger part in our development in terms of relationship skills, shall I say, than we maybe realise. And you just pointed that out beautifully.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't it be great if you could go and do a course, or, you know, I was going to say if you could go and do a course at college on love and relationships, or even if it was taught in schools, that you could kind of explore things like feelings and emotions. I'd love that. I'd do it.
I would love to run it. I think there's always much more to learn. Absolutely. So maybe I'll join you on some sort of course. But yeah, it's we just learn by trial and error, don't we?
Mm.
And I'm just sitting here thinking now of just people that kind of came and gone in my life, kind of just naturally in a way that, and the different roles people play, and you can't kind of force things. It will just happen the way they happen. And I've got some friends one friend I've known since we were 12, and she's an incredibly big part of my life, and still till this day, for example. And others have just kind of come and gone, just like waves almost. But it's everybody plays a role if we can just see that.
I agree with you. I believe, or I'm of the firm belief, that life is episodic. So, you know, we, as you say, we have people that come into our lives for a reason, and some people do fade away, and then we have those people who are with us for a very long time. And, you know, those friends. I've got a friend I've known since I was 8. We were at primary school together. You know, and just as you were describing, she's really important to me. But, you know, we all have those experiences where we spend a lot of time with certain people, and it's one reason or another they disappear out of our lives, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that's, again, it's very human and a very sort of normal experience.
Yeah, totally. And I guess it's trying not to control that in a way, but just be with it as it comes and goes.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. So if there's anybody out there at the moment just listening to us that may be feeling a bit isolated, or that they, you know, going through life a little bit on their own, or feeling as though they're the only ones that's dealing with something, what kind of advice would you have for somebody?
Definitely, you know, to reach out. So with our community for, you know, child-free women, I think one of the motivations for me for setting that up was to show, you know, women like me, that I think it's very common, I think, still for women who have reached a certain age who don't fit into that kind of fairy tale, sort of what society or common sense understandings of being, you know, sort of married with 2 kids, you know, and I think certainly with other types of experiences where people might feel isolated, is the idea that, you know, you don't need to go through something by yourself, and there's always others like you that, you know, there to sort of reach out and connect with. Yeah. So it sounds very simple, really, and again, quite common sense. But as humans, we're meant to, you know, we're social creatures, and we are meant to support each other and also find our strength by helping each other. Yeah.
So when somebody is thinking of joining the say one of the meetups, I mean, it's obviously easy online, but if somebody is thinking of joining one of the meetup groups or so on, what can they expect?
We do all sorts of things, and it's interesting because the groups in different areas have their own kind of unique character. So, for instance, in Brighton, you know, there's loads going on. We do sort of social things together that could be as simple as just going for a drink, kind of meeting up in a pub or going out for something to eat together, to attending some events and exhibitions and things like that. And it's really a chance just to relax and talk and meet other people. Something you said just made me think of this, actually. It's interesting that if you're on your own and you join, even the most confident of people, it can be quite scary going along to something by yourself for the first time. And I've had a number of women who've come along for the first time say, oh gosh, I was actually really nervous. And it's a little bit like going on a first date, I think. That sort of slight nerves, will they like me? Will I like them? That kind of thing. But what I would say, and I've actually been to meetups, I've got round everywhere. So I've been to the meetup in Bristol and I've been to the meetup in Manchester. The women in our community are just so nice, so warm, so welcoming, and there's a lot of laughs. So it's not a kind of serious thing. We don't sit around talking about being child free and why, and it's not a fertility support group. It's really just about having some fun and meeting new people at a time in your life, where perhaps it is a little bit harder than when we were sort of 15 or 21.
Sure. I just have this image in my mind of this whole butterfly effect, that you're setting up this community that you might never even know of the connections that this is creating, as people meet each other and start to do things outside of the meetup groups, and it's just wonderful to think about it like that. I love it.
Yeah, it's been really nice because I do hear stories, and obviously I meet the women as well. We've had such nice connections have been made, women who've become really good friends, who've gone on holiday together, have connected professionally. I need this service, well actually that's what I do, and that kind of thing. And I really, really want to hear of somebody meeting up and starting a business together through one of our meetups. I don't know why, but yeah, I'd really love that.
Watch this space.
Yeah.
Okay, so Chloe, I'm just thinking in terms of for our show and what you said earlier of obviously this love, dating, relationships, and I really loved your point earlier when you said about how useful our friendships can be in terms of preparing us in terms of relationship skills and emotional intimacy and boundaries and so on. I think you mentioned.
Yeah.
So something I'm always interested in, and question that I love to ask is when it comes to love, what is your definition? Or how do you describe it, if you can put it into words?
It's such a difficult question, isn't it? I mean, what's
yes, it is. It's not easy.
So I have two answers to this, I think. One is a quick, simple answer, and the other one's a bit longer. So I'm going to give you the quick answer.
Okay.
And you can tell me if you want to hear the long answer. So I think my simple answer to this, and I say this as a 40-year-old woman who has experienced a couple of long-term relationships. I've been in a few relationships in my life. I'm not married. I've never been married. And I think the lessons that I've learned along the way through, sort of making mistakes, is that romantic love, in my mind, is in a type of equation. So for me, love is kindness, commitment, and then sexual compatibility. So if for me, it only really works if all of those are in place and in balance. And if you kind of take away one, it's not love, it's something different. So yeah, kindness, commitment, and sexual compatibility.
I love it. I might borrow it. I love that you mentioned the balance bit as well.
Yeah, I think balance is really important.
Well, I would love to hear the other answer too.
Okay. This is my more sort of flowery, spiritual answer, I suppose. And it's not my own words. So I'm going to quote somebody in a minute who sort of really inspired me. So a few years ago, so we're going back about 5 years, and I was completely brokenhearted. So I come out of this relationship that I really thought this was my one, and was going through this horrible period of heartbreak. And I know we've all been there. That sort of loss of appetite, can't sleep, lack of confidence, and I'm always going to be alone, and I went on this mission, I suppose, desperately trying to seek advice and get some sort of solution, really, put a stop to feeling bad. Rather than actually sit with it. And I came across this book by a lady called Susan Piver, which is a self-help book, and she's a practicing Buddhist. And instead of focusing on that kind of positive psychology and hints and tips to make you feel better, her focus is really on meditation and staying still and exploring difficult feelings like sadness and anger. And she calls it a profound path to wisdom. But you don't need to be really into Buddhism to get the benefits of her philosophy, I think. Anyway, so there's this bit in the book where she's describing where she was going through awful heartbreak and feeling just absolutely rotten and lying on the sofa and sobbing and just terrible. And she was surrounded by all these self-help books. It's quite funny, really. And she turned to this book called The Search for the Beloved by a woman called Jean Houston, and it mysteriously fell open, this section. And that's kind of what happened to me with the Piver book. So she described in the book, in this section, about how all our experiences and journeys are different and unique, but anybody who's ever been heartbroken shares something in common, and that's a desire to be met. So, I'm going to quote her. So, she says, to be fully and thoroughly met, the totality of who you are is received into the being of another and causes that other to open his or her arms to you and extend the perfect shelter of sacred acceptance. It is sacred in that it is unconditional. It ignores faults and assets and reaches through them to simply hold you. You feel you can fully come into existence by such an embrace. It is what we all long for. It is intrinsic and mysterious. I think that is just beautiful. And in my kind of romantic mind, that is what big love is, to be fully and thoroughly met. And I really love that idea of ignoring faults and assets and sort of reaching to simply hold you. But obviously kindness, commitment and sexual compatibility is a bit simpler.
Oh gosh, I'm a little bit speechless. That is just, that is so beautiful. That is so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I've never heard of Susan Piver, so I'm definitely going to check that out. And also Jean Houston, did you say?
Yeah, I mean, I must confess I haven't read the Jean Houston book, and I think it's a bit, if you're into sort of metaphysics and, it's a bit more kind of woo-wah, I like to call it. But yeah, I'm sure it's very interesting.
Right. Gosh, Chloe, that's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome.
Wow, I hope that somebody out there will really find some inspiration in there, the same as I just did. I really do believe that I think I found, well, no, not I think, I know I found my big love, and it's just like, just kind of recognizing some of this, but it's always something to take care of and never to take for granted.
Yeah.
Shall I say? So it's always good to be reminded. Always. Oh, shoo. Okay, let me just take a deep breath. we've just talked about League of Fabulous Women and community and connection and friendship, and how you've been working to really develop this for others and for women to come together and connect and so on. So at this point in time, what is new and exciting, and what's the next step for you, and how can people connect, and where can they go? If you just want to tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. So the central hub, if you like, is the website, which is TLFW.co.uk. And it's there that we've got all our content and the blog. You can also find us all over social media. So we're on Twitter, Facebook group, and the Meetups, which there's a page on the website connecting, where you can follow the links and that will take you straight to Meetup, or you can search for us through the Meetup software. And in terms of what's next, I mean, we are growing. So the community is getting bigger every day. People are joining every day, which is both exciting and a little bit scary. But no, I'm pleased. It's not scary at all. It's wonderful.
No, I understand.
And we are hoping that we're going to be able to set some meetup groups up in other parts of the country. So if you're listening to this and you're in Edinburgh or Nottingham, and you think this is something that you'd like to be involved with, then get in touch with us, please, by all means, through the website, and we will do everything we can to support you and connect you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, that would be really amazing to expand the offline community as well, alongside your growing online community.
Yes, definitely. Because, having spoken with you at the beginning of this about the importance of the internet and the role that that's had in connecting people, face to face is a whole different experience, and I think it is there. We'll see true intimacy and that kind of really valuable support is done. There's no real replacement, rather than meeting somebody in real life.
Totally. I completely agree. Yeah, absolutely. I wish I can, due to the nature of my work is the coaching and so on, is 95% of the time is all online. But when I actually get to meet somebody in person, I'm so happy. Makes me really happy. Actually be able to just physically be with somebody. That's wonderful. So Chloe, I just want to say congratulations again on what you're doing, and thank you for what you're doing.
Oh, you're very welcome.
I think it's a truly wonderful thing, and can never underestimate the values of true friendship in our lives at all our different stages and phases.
Oh gosh, yes, I completely agree with you.
Right, so we're going to wrap up very soon, but I'm just going to ask you my other favourite question that I always ask my guests. This is just before we finish off, but your ultimate relationship tip or piece of advice or wisdom to share just before we finish, please.
Gosh, again, this is a big one, isn't it? I think from my own experience and the wisdom, if you like, that I've gathered along the way through having kind of failed relationships, is listen to your intuition and acknowledge your own feelings. So I think, I'm not sure if that's one or two, but if I'm allowed that. So listen to your intuition.
They're both brilliant.
And acknowledge your own feelings. So as a young woman, I was terrible at this, and I stayed in relationships that weren't right for me. And, probably, but definitely not right for the other person as well. But I was very bad at kind of, listening to how I felt and sort of reacting to that and putting up with situations and behaviours that weren't good for me, I suppose. And I think it's very, very common. It's, sort of trust your own feelings, really, and respect them.
Yeah. And how did you learn over time to do that better? Because I'm asking because this is something that I really do hear a lot.
I should say that it's an area of my life that I've only really begun to get a handle on as an adult in recent years. I'm saying listen to your intuition and acknowledge your own feelings, but I don't want to claim to have been particularly good at it or any sort of expert. And it wasn't until my late 30s that I started to really kind of explore my own path and engage with things like talking therapy, self-development, and really kind of look at past relationships and examine other areas like my relationship with my parents and what sort of things frightened me in relationships and how I approach intimacy and things like that. And again, I think that's very common. It's not sort of something we do as young people unless there's a specific issue. But I think we could all or many of us as adults could benefit from, speaking to somebody like you, Anna. we all need a bit of help from time to time.
I agree. And it's just, we go through so much of our lives not conscious of. I always say we don't know what we don't know. And it's usually when the discomfort or the pain, shall I say, becomes too much to bear through another relationship breakdown or, something like that, or a divorce, or, something really maybe big that kind of triggers us to start doing the work on ourselves.
Yes. Absolutely. And I think it's, again, it's something that we don't do as young people, but perhaps should do more of. And I'm so glad that there's people like you and coaching and therapists, and it's sort of becoming much more acceptable, much more common for people to go for advice and the kind of self-development and self-improvement.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear about your own journey, and thank you for sharing that, because it's only by kind of talking and iterating and verbalizing things that we help each other to become aware of things that we might not be consciously aware of sometimes. That's going on for us. So thank you. Thanks for sharing that. Wonderful. So, we're finished, Chloe. I can't believe it. I actually have more questions for you, but I think I'm going to get you back on the show if that's all right with you.
Oh, wow. Yeah, well, that would be wonderful. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you very much. Same here. So I'm just going to say goodbye to our listeners just now, and then we're going to wrap up. So this was the Ready for Love podcast with Anna Auret and my very special guest, Dr. Chloe Peacock, founder of the League of Fabulous Women. If you have any questions or comments for me or for us, please do email me at anna@datingcoach.uk. It's anna@datingcoach.uk, or you can reach me on Twitter handle @datingcoach. Remember, you can also check out the show notes on datingcoach.uk/podcast, and the whole interview with all the notes and so on will be on there. So I look forward to hearing from you, and I wish you all the very best. And wherever you are, I'm sending you much, much love. I can't wait to connect with you again next week. Hopefully you'll come and join me.